If you want to make pictures like this, you got to get the trace right. So I made it really easy. I made a really easy like shapes method that you can follow, and you can get your proportions right every single time. Now, this is for beginners, and I have all the videos down below. I have all the photos too, if you want to really improve your artwork. And this is one of the first steps that I show you in the 7-step guide. So if you really want to like get from step 0 to step right here, this is the first step that you need to follow. So this is getting your proportions right, and I have that down below in the 7-step guide for painting portraits. It's completely free. So get the 7-step guide and then follow this while you're doing this. So now the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to create a square for the forehead. So the first thing that you're going to look at is the forehead. And for this process that I'm going to show you right now, you're going to be moving from top down. So the forehead is the first thing that you want to start off with, not their hair. Okay, you're going to start off with the forehead, and you're going to create a box. And then you're also going to find the middle of that box, and you're going to put a line, okay, in the middle, and you're going to make it for the length of the nose that you want to make. So I'm just going to follow that right here, and you see that that's exactly what I made right here on my palette, on my canvas. And now we're ready to move on to the next step, which is starting to get the roundness of the eye. So after you created that box, it's important for us to transition, because you see that the bone structure of the face, it makes it a little bit like wider as you move down to the eyes and the eye section. So you want to map that out too. You're going to start to create like lines over here that round out that area around the nose bridge, and then also where these eyes start to come out too. So you're just going to start to move down a little bit, create these slanted lines, and you can adjust this based on the photo that you're making. You can make it a little bit wider, a little bit narrow, and this is all depending on how the structure of the person that you're painting is. So now to move on to the next step after you created the roundness of their eye is you're going to start to create the side panels of their forehead. So after this, you're going to be done with like this whole top area, and you're ready to move down. And also along with creating the side panels of their forehead, you're going to create their nose, and you're also going to map out the shadow of their nose. So you can see over here in the reference photo that you can see clearly where the shadow of the nose ends. So we really want to map that out, because it's going to help us out with our proportions, and we want to get as much details as we can that we can build off of, because I'm looking at the photo in terms of like, what can I use to really like build off of? Like, it's like you're putting your foot on something to help you get to the next place. And if you don't really map out everything that you can, then you're going to miss out on like details and places that you can really like get accurately. I hope that makes sense, because mapping out shadows, if I didn't map out the shadow, then I'll just be left with a nose like this. And then I could probably make the lips come out a little bit too high, you see, or maybe they'll come out a little bit too low, because I don't really have something to build off of or like really put my foot on before I go to the next step. But the difference with mapping out the shadow over here is that I see, okay, now there's like a little bit of a line right here, like a small curve. And then from here, I know that my lips are at the right height, because the lips are just building off of that little curve over here underneath his nose. So yeah, that's why I like to map out all of my shadows. And that's exactly what I did right here, but I didn't make it like too perfect. I just made it like very geometric, because the perfection is for the later stages. Right now, we're just focusing on getting all the proportions right, so we can have a good foundation to build our building off of. Okay, so after you created the nose and the shadow, you're ready to move on to the cheekbones. And the cheekbones in this photo were actually pretty easy for me to make, because there's different light bouncing off his face, and you can really see the light where it separates. That's where the cheekbones are, and this guy has some pretty strong cheekbones, so you can see clearly where they start and where they end. So it was really easy for me to do in this photo, but you can have this too in other photos that you make. You can clearly see where the person's cheekbones are because of like where the shadows are, where the darkness is. You just map that out and you create where those cheekbones are. But like you'll see eventually, as you start to build on top of the painting some more and some more in the 7-step guide process, you're going to be covering up all of these lines. So you're not going to see them in the finished product. And that's the point. You don't really want to see these. You just want them to be there to really guide you. And then you're not going to see it at all once you get to the finished product. But now onto the next thing is going to move on to the mouth. And the mouth was a clear transition from the cheekbones. You see that there's just like a little bit of a curve underneath the lips and where you put the lips. And I also mapped out where the lips are too. So you're just going to create this like curved line, and you see that this can be seen in the shadows too. So this part over here gets a little bit darker. This whole area is like a dark area. So I just mapped that out with my underpainting. And the lips over here was just like 3 lines. I created that little curve after I created that like shadow of the nose, just like how I showed you. And you're going to create a little bit of a line for the middle of the lips, and you're going to create like a line for the bottom of the lips too. So another place where you can see where the shadows are helpful is over here. You see that this is not like a strict line. This place right here, let me actually get a smaller brush for this. This line right here is like, it's a whole shadow, but I mapped it out too because it's going to help me out with the proportions of the chin as I move down to the chin. And yeah, on to the next thing. Now you're going to move on to the chin, and you're going to create the jaw too. So the jaw is just going to connect all of these lines that you created from the side panels of the face to the chin, and it's going to create that whole like face shape. So from here, we're almost finished, and we only have a few more steps from here. So we pretty much have the whole section of the face finished out. Now we just need to add more details, such as like the ears and their hair. So now the ears and their hair, you're going to build off that too. And I also like to look at where the ear placement is in terms of like where the eyes are. So I have that eye line right here, and I see that the place where the eyes are in the middle is where the top of the ears are. So that's what I use whenever I'm creating this trace. I'm going to create the ears, like the top of the ears, wherever the middle of the eyes are. And I actually made it a little bit higher over here, but I was supposed to make it like directly in proportion with where the middle of the eyes are, because clearly in the photo right here, you see that the middle of the eyes is where the peak of the ears are. So just looking at little things like that can really help you out with getting your proportions right. And I hope that this like all makes sense, because it can be a little bit tricky, but after you like start to notice these little things that you can start to use to your advantage and like start to build off of, then you're gonna like really start to get your groove and like create underpaintings that are like really accurate and like really good proportionally wise. And now from here, you're just going to create the top of the head and just finish it out with the neck too. So the neck was a pretty easy section. I just separated where all the shadows are. So you see that this part right here is like the darkest one, and then there's a transition to the reds, and then there's another transition between the darks to the reds again over here. So I just mapped all of that out, and I also created like the top of the head, but I didn't really focus too much on the top of the head because I know that after I start painting, then this part over here is just going to be like a little bit messy, because you want to create that like hair-like texture, and the hair-like texture, you can't really like create a nice mold for it. It needs to be free flowing. Okay, and from here, now you're ready to move on to the next steps of the 7-step process on how to paint portraits. So if you're interested in that, click the link in the description down below, and over there, you're also going to get access to my emailing list. So after you put in your email, you're going to join it, and that's where you're going to be able to get access to me, because I'm going to be launching an art coaching. That's how you can get early access to that as well, because I want to help you out if you're struggling with anything, or if you're having any difficulty, or you just need like some sort of mentorship. I feel like it's really helpful to have somebody who's like a few steps ahead of you, or somebody who's like gone through a different process that you can really learn from and like get some like valuable information that you can use. So I want you to be proud of the work that you make. Don't give up. Just keep on experimenting, keep on trying, and just put your energy into this, because this requires a lot of energy, but it's going to give you a lot back in return. So that's what I've noticed from painting. I really enjoy this process because it really teaches me more about myself, and I'm able to really tap deep into my motivations. I'm really able to tap deep into like how my mind works, so like my flow state, because it's really something that is like something so special, because whenever people see the artwork that you make, and whenever people see that you've really like refined a craft, is so inspirational to them. And I feel like artwork is able to speak words that my mind or just my body can't really speak, and it's able to just be expressed in just the work that I make. So I want you to be at this same level. I want you to just become the best artist that you can become, because it's something so beautiful, and I feel like I want to create a community that everybody's just like motivated to do this one thing. So again, I want to thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. And if you want to learn the top mistakes to avoid whenever you're painting portraits, click the video on the screen right now, and I'll see you all over there.